The beige envelope fell from the suitcase with a sound that would later haunt Sarah Mitchell for the rest of her life. She was helping her mother-in-law, Elena Petrov, organize the attic on a sweltering August afternoon in 1987 when the manila folder slipped from beneath a stack of old Christmas decorations. The contents scattered across the dusty wooden floor like autumn leaves, except these weren't innocent family photographs. They were surveillance images of the Electric Boat Shipyard in Groton, Connecticut. Detailed architectural blueprints of submarine construction facilities, technical specifications written in Russian, letters bearing Soviet postal marks, and at the bottom of the pile, a small black and white photograph of Elena herself, dated 1953, standing beside what appeared to be a KGB identification card. Sarah's hands trembled as she gathered the documents, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. Elena Petrov, the woman who made pierogi every Sunday after Mass, who tended roses in her garden with devotion bordering on obsession, who spoke English with what everyone assumed was a charming Polish accent. This woman was a Soviet spy. The discovery came 3 months after Sarah's wedding to David Petrov, Elena's only son. The young couple had been living in their own apartment in Waterbury, while David finished his engineering degree at the University of Connecticut. But they spent every weekend at Elena's modest colonial house in Middletown, part of the Polish community that had thrived there since the early 1900s. Elena fit perfectly into the neighborhood fabric. A war widow whose husband had supposedly died in 1956. A devout Catholic who never missed morning mass at St. Mary of Czestochowa. A woman whose English carried traces of what everyone believed was her Galician heritage. If you are enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave your opinion in the comments. Do you think Sarah should report her mother-in-law? Stay until the end to find out how this discovery completely destroyed a family and revealed a spy network that had been operating for decades. But the documents told a different story entirely. According to a personnel file written in Cyrillic script, Elena Petrov was actually Yelena Petrova, born in Leningrad in 1923, recruited by the NKVD in 1946, and deployed to the United States in 1952 under deep cover. Her mission: to establish herself in Connecticut's Polish immigrant community, marry an American citizen, and gather intelligence on naval construction facilities along the Connecticut coast. Sarah's discovery wasn't accidental. Elena had suffered a minor stroke 2 weeks earlier and had asked Sarah to help organize the house while she recovered. The hidden documents had been concealed behind a false wall in the attic, secured by a mechanism that Elena, in her weakened state, had failed to properly lock. What should have remained buried for decades had literally fallen into Sarah's hands. The implications crashed down on her like a collapsing building. If Elena was a Soviet agent, what did that make David? Had their entire courtship been orchestrated? Their meeting at a university mixer in Hartford, their shared love of classical music, his proposal on the shore of Long Island Sound, had any of it been real? When Sarah confronted Elena that evening, the older woman's reaction confirmed her worst fears. Elena didn't deny anything. She simply sat in her kitchen chair, staring at the documents spread across the table, and spoke in a voice Sarah had never heard before, clear, precise, without a trace of the accent she'd maintained for 35 years. "How much do you know about your husband's education?" Elena asked. The question hit Sarah like ice water. David's tuition at UConn had always been mysteriously covered by what he called family savings. His summer jobs at defense contractors had seemed too convenient, too perfectly aligned with his engineering studies. His easy access to restricted areas during plant tours, his knowledge of submarine classifications that went far beyond what any college student should know. "He knows," Elena said simply. He has always known. Sarah's confrontation with David that night shattered the last remnants of innocence in their 3-month marriage. She found him in their Waterbury apartment, grading papers from his part-time teaching assistant position, looking exactly like the earnest graduate student she'd fallen in love with. But when she placed the surveillance photographs on his desk, his reaction told her everything she needed to know. He didn't ask where she'd found them. He didn't express surprise or confusion. Instead, David Petrov looked at the images with the weary resignation of someone whose secret had finally been exposed. "Since I was 12, he said quietly, not looking up from the photographs. That's when she told me about Papa, that he wasn't really dead, that he was back in Moscow, that we might see him again someday if I proved myself worthy." The story that unfolded over the next hour demolished every assumption Sarah had held about her marriage. David revealed that Elena had been systematically grooming him since childhood, training him to notice details, to remember conversations, to blend into academic environments. His stellar performance in engineering school hadn't been purely academic brilliance. It had been decades of preparation for infiltration. "The submarine specifications you saw," David explained, his voice hollow. "I photographed those during my summer internship at Electric Boat. Elena has contacts in Moscow who are specifically interested in American nuclear propulsion systems." Sarah learned that David's entire academic trajectory had been carefully orchestrated. His choice to study marine engineering at UConn hadn't been personal interest. It had been a directive from Elena, who needed intelligence on naval technologies being developed at Connecticut's defense facilities. His summer positions at Electric Boat and United Nuclear Corporation hadn't been coincidental. They had been arranged through a network of Soviet sympathizers embedded in Connecticut's defense industry. But the revelation that destroyed Sarah completely came when David admitted that their relationship itself had been part of his cover. Elena had identified Sarah as an ideal target, a young woman from a military family whose father worked as a civilian contractor for the naval submarine base. Sarah's access to her father's home office, her innocent conversations about his work, her weekend visits to New London, where she might overhear discussions about submarine deployment schedules, all of it had intelligence value. "Did you ever love me?" Sarah asked. David's silence lasted nearly a minute. When he finally spoke, his words were measured and careful. "I don't know anymore. The training was so thorough, so complete, that I'm not sure I know the difference between what I was taught to feel and what I actually feel." The next morning, Sarah made a decision that would haunt her for years. Instead of immediately contacting the FBI, she chose to investigate further, hoping to understand the full scope of what she had stumbled into. She returned to Elena's house under the pretense of continuing the attic cleaning and spent hours examining every document in the hidden compartment. What she discovered was a comprehensive intelligence operation that had been running for over 3 decades. Elena hadn't been working alone. The documents revealed a network of at least 15 other Soviet agents embedded throughout Connecticut's Polish immigrant communities. They operated under what the KGB called deep legend, false identities so thoroughly constructed that the agents themselves sometimes forgot their original names. The network's sophistication was staggering. Elena's contacts included a machinist at Electric Boat who had been photographing submarine blueprints since 1961, a secretary at Pratt & Whitney who provided intelligence on jet engine technologies, and a librarian at the Naval Submarine Base who had been copying classified documents for years. The operation was coordinated through a complex system of coded messages hidden in obituaries published in Polish-language newspapers distributed throughout Connecticut's Polonia communities. Sarah's discovery of surveillance equipment hidden in Elena's basement confirmed that the house had been serving as a communications hub. A shortwave radio concealed behind the furnace could transmit directly to Cuba, where messages were relayed to Moscow. Photographic equipment in a hidden darkroom had been used to reduce documents to microdots that could be embedded in seemingly innocent letters sent to addresses in Poland. Most disturbing was Elena's detailed file on Sarah herself. The documents revealed that Elena had been monitoring Sarah's family for over a year before David had even met her. Elena knew about Sarah's father's work schedule, her mother's volunteering at the base chapel, even Sarah's own part-time job at the University of Connecticut Library, where she had access to technical journals. The courtship between David and Sarah hadn't been chance. It had been a carefully orchestrated intelligence operation designed to exploit Sarah's family connections to naval facilities. As Sarah photographed the documents with a camera she'd borrowed from her journalism classes, she realized she was now part of the very network she had discovered. The paranoia began slowly, like a tide creeping in. 3 days after confronting David, Sarah noticed a gray Oldsmobile parked across from her apartment building, the same car she'd seen outside the university library where she worked. The driver, a middle-aged man reading a newspaper, seemed to have endless patience. When Sarah left for work the next morning, the car followed her, maintaining a careful distance through Waterbury's winding streets. Sarah's attempts to verify her suspicions led to increasingly disturbing discoveries. A call to the Connecticut Motor Vehicle Department, using skills learned in her journalism courses, revealed that the Oldsmobile was registered to a company called Baltic Trading Associates, the same import business that Elena used to explain her modest income. Sarah's blood ran cold when she realized the surveillance wasn't coming from law enforcement. She was being watched by the same network she had uncovered. Elena's network proved to be far more extensive than Sarah had initially understood. Further investigation revealed that Baltic Trading Associates imported goods from Poland, East Germany, and the Soviet Union, providing perfect cover for transporting intelligence materials and instructions. The company maintained offices in 5 Connecticut cities, each located in areas with significant Polish immigrant populations. New Britain, Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven, and Waterbury, all cities where Elena's network had established deep roots over decades. Sarah discovered that Elena wasn't even the network's leader. Documents hidden in the basement revealed that the operation was coordinated by someone identified only as Uncle Stanislaw, who communicated through coded messages embedded in Polish-language Catholic newsletters distributed throughout Connecticut's parishes. The religious publications, printed in Chicago and distributed to Polish Catholic communities across the Northeast, contained seemingly innocent family news and parish announcements that actually conveyed intelligence requirements and operational instructions. The psychological toll on Sarah became overwhelming when she realized how thoroughly her life had been infiltrated. Elena's files contained detailed personality assessments, not only of Sarah, but of her parents, her younger sister, even her college roommate. The documents revealed that Elena had been cultivating relationships with multiple families in the area, identifying potential targets and assets with the patience of someone planning operations that might take years to mature. David's revelation that he had been recording their private conversations since their wedding shattered Sarah's last hope that some part of their relationship had been genuine. Small incidents from their marriage suddenly took on sinister new meaning. His encouragement for her to visit her father more often, his casual questions about her father's work travel schedule, his insistence that they attend social events where Navy personnel might be present. Every intimate moment had been contaminated by espionage. The breaking point came when Sarah discovered that Elena had been drugging her. Blood tests ordered by Sarah's doctor revealed traces of a mild sedative that explained the unusual drowsiness she'd been experiencing during recent visits to Elena's house. The medication had been administered through Elena's homemade pierogi, ensuring that Sarah would be relaxed and talkative during family dinners, where Elena steered conversations toward Sarah's father's work. Sarah's decision to contact the FBI was precipitated by her discovery that the network was planning to exploit her father's upcoming inspection tour of submarine facilities in Norfolk, Virginia. Documents indicated that Elena expected Sarah to accompany her parents on what was supposed to be a family vacation, providing opportunities to photograph classified materials in her father's briefcase. The operation, scheduled for September 1987, would potentially compromise naval secrets related to the Trident missile submarine program. When Sarah finally called the FBI field office in New Haven, she learned that federal investigators had been aware of suspicious activities in Connecticut's Polish communities since 1985. Agent Margaret Kowalski, herself Polish-American, explained that the Bureau had been monitoring increased Soviet intelligence activity throughout New England, but had been unable to penetrate the networks because of their sophisticated use of ethnic communities for cover. Sarah's information provided the breakthrough investigators needed. Elena's network had operated successfully for so long because it exploited the natural insularity of immigrant communities, using shared language, religious practices, and cultural traditions to maintain operational security. The agents didn't just pose as Polish immigrants, they became genuine members of Polish-American society, contributing to parishes, participating in cultural festivals, and establishing themselves as respected community members over decades. The FBI's investigation would eventually reveal that Elena's network was part of a broader Soviet operation targeting defense facilities throughout Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, an operation that had been gathering intelligence on American naval capabilities for over 30 years. The FBI operation that followed Sarah's cooperation would become one of the largest counterintelligence investigations in Connecticut's history. Agent Kowalski's team spent 3 months conducting surveillance on Elena's network before making arrests, using Sarah as an unwitting asset to map the full scope of the operation. Sarah continued her normal routine while wearing a wire, visiting Elena's house and maintaining the pretense of an innocent daughter-in-law. The recordings captured Elena coordinating intelligence transfers with contacts throughout New England, revealing that the Connecticut network was just one component of a vast Soviet operation that stretched from Boston to New York City. Elena's conversations, conducted in a mixture of Polish, Russian, and coded English, provided evidence that the network had been responsible for compromising classified information about submarine design, naval communication systems, and weapons technologies for decades. The arrests came simultaneously across 5 states on November 12, 1987. Elena was taken into custody at 5:47 a.m. as she prepared to transmit intelligence to Cuba using the shortwave radio in her basement. David was arrested at the University of Connecticut campus, where FBI agents found him in possession of photographs of classified documents he had acquired during his internship at Electric Boat. 17 other members of the network were apprehended in coordinated raids that stretched from Portland, Maine, to Newark, New Jersey. Elena's reaction to her arrest shocked even experienced federal agents. Rather than maintaining her Polish immigrant persona, she immediately reverted to speaking fluent Russian and demanded to be put in contact with Soviet diplomatic personnel. Her transformation was so complete that neighbors who had known her for decades later said they felt they had been living next to a complete stranger. The woman who had baked cookies for parish fundraisers and volunteered at local schools was revealed to be a trained intelligence officer who had spent 35 years systematically betraying American naval secrets. David's arrest destroyed what remained of Sarah's marriage, but his cooperation with federal investigators provided crucial intelligence about Soviet recruitment and training methods. His debriefings revealed that Elena had been part of a generation of illegal agents deployed to the United States in the early 1950s, following techniques developed by the KGB for creating deep cover operatives who could operate undetected for decades. The psychological examination, ordered by federal prosecutors, revealed that David suffered from what psychologists would later recognize as complex identity disorder resulting from childhood espionage training. Experts testified that Elena had systematically destroyed David's ability to distinguish between genuine emotions and programmed responses, creating a person who literally didn't know whether his feelings were authentic or manufactured. Elena's trial in federal court in New Haven attracted international attention as prosecutors presented evidence of one of the longest-running espionage operations in American history. The classified documents she had transmitted to Moscow included blueprints for nuclear submarine reactor designs, sonar technology specifications, and strategic naval deployment schedules. Defense experts testified that Elena's intelligence had potentially compromised American naval superiority and endangered the lives of submarine crews. Elena never expressed remorse. During her sentencing hearing, she delivered a statement in fluent Russian that translators later revealed was a defiant declaration of loyalty to the Soviet Union and contempt for American justice. Judge Patricia Morrison sentenced Elena to life in prison without possibility of parole, noting that her crimes had persisted for over 3 decades and had potentially endangered national security during some of the most dangerous years of the Cold War. Sarah's testimony during the trial provided a window into the human cost of long-term espionage operations. She described the psychological devastation of discovering that her marriage, her relationships, and even her sense of identity had been manipulated by foreign intelligence operations. Mental health experts testified that victims of such sophisticated deception often suffered long-term trauma similar to that experienced by survivors of cult programming. Elena died in federal prison in 1994, still maintaining her loyalty to a Soviet Union that no longer existed. David served 18 months in federal prison and was released under a cooperation agreement that required him to provide ongoing assistance to counterintelligence operations. He disappeared from public view after his release, and Sarah never saw him again. The investigation ultimately revealed that Elena's network had operated successfully for 35 years, demonstrating how patient, well-funded intelligence operations could exploit American openness and immigrant communities to compromise national security. Sarah's accidental discovery had ended one of the Cold War's most successful espionage operations,